Hey there, how's it going, everybody? So today is Valentine's Day. It's 2/14/26, and today also happened to be Skill Day from a Skill Day training video. And it just so happened, despite the time of the year and being in the northern hemisphere, it had warmed up quite a bit. It was probably mid 50s Fahrenheit today, probably around 12 to 15 degrees Celsius. The sun felt good, and I was feeling good about myself. I know I'm a little thick, as the title suggested, but I like to have fun. I like to have a good time. And it's healthy. It's healthy to have fun. We don't always have to be so hard on ourselves. We don't always have to, try so hard in life. Sometimes we need to just relax a little bit and have some fun. So, this also kind of made me feel like, I might have a plan B, if pharmacy school doesn't work out for me. Um, Jokes aside, like I was saying, I like to have fun. And I kind of want to talk a little bit about self-care today. Like I was saying, sometimes we need to kind of take it easy and, chill out and have some fun and laugh a little bit. Our overall well-being, is something that a lot of us, including myself, we need to put more time into. We need to think about more. Especially if you're into being physically active. It's good to think about your overall well-being. The bigger picture. It's good to do strength training. It's good to do cardio. Those things are good for you, but we need to also take care of our minds. We need to care for ourselves psychologically. And I say that as a wannabe health professional. I know I'm in pharmacy school and I'm from a non-traditional path. Yeah, I've been in college since 2013, but I've kind of always been, a bit of a health nerd, and that's probably what got me into being, physically active and calisthenics to begin with. But let's think about our psychological well-being as well. Along with that, I mentioned flexibility training. Especially if you're a younger person, you should try to get flexible, because as we get older, we can still get flexible. It's a lot more difficult. Just the way our tissues and how they change over time. So let's think about our strength training. Let's think about our psychological well-being, our flexibility. Let's think about our overall health. And, consider today was a warmer day, and, it was sunny. Going along with that, and part of the reason why I'm shirtless and having some laughs here is, I wanted to get some sunlight, because it's been cold and I've been bundled up inside, and I haven't had a lot of sunlight in a while. And in a way, we're kind of like plants. Plants need sunlight to undergo photosynthesis and make energy and, do things that plants do. But animals and, humans particularly, we also need sunlight because sunlight allows us to metabolize vitamin D. And, there's a lot of other things too that I'm sure sunlight does for us that is above my current knowledge level. But to keep things simple, just know that sunlight is something that you need to be healthy. But keep in mind that too much sunlight is bad, because skin cancer is a very common thing. I feel like it's becoming more common every year. So to segue off of that, it's very important if you're going to be outside to put on, some good layers of sunscreen. Get, like SPF 30 or better. I'm not sure how the sunscreens are rated, across the waters, in other places. But in America, we go by SPF. I'm sorry if if that is something else in another country. But just get you some good sunscreen and protect yourself from the sun. You know, it doesn't block 100% of the UV rays, hence why I'm still getting health benefits by being in the sun. But this is not something really that you'd want to do every single day because you wouldn't have too much sun exposure, and that would greatly increase your chance of skin cancer. And like I was saying, we're trying to think about our person, ourselves, from an overall well-being perspective. And skin cancer isn't exactly something that we would want to have, obviously. So put on the sunscreen, and try not to be out in the sun too long. I think I was outside today, maybe 2 hours. To be honest with you, I was just having a good time. The wife came out and worked out with me some, and it was just a nice day. It was Valentine's Day, and it was skill day, so like one of my favorite training days, arguably my very favorite training day. And I've been making so much progress lately, and I just took things slow and was having a good time. Here I think I'm still doing the warm-up, but I think I'm kind of starting to get into some things. This might be the, I usually call it the pull day specific warm-up, but really anytime I'm using upper body and doing any kind of pulling, I'm going to be doing this. Like I've been saying in a lot of my videos recently, it's really hard to warm up too much, and warming up only does good things for you. It makes you stronger, it decreases your chances of injury, and if we're trying to be healthy and have a good time, we want to do so in a safe way, and put all the odds in our favor of not being injured. Along with what I was saying about our overall well-being, being happy and having self-confidence, and just feeling good about ourselves. That's something a lot of people, they overlook or struggle with. And as someone who grew up obese, I can definitely relate to how people feel about that. But over time, ideally, you can grow to accept yourself and be happy with yourself, and not stress things so much, and really enjoy life while we're blessed enough to be here. Let's see, what else was I going to talk about today? I was having some controlled playtime, so to say. It's skill day, and like I was saying, I was taking things slow. I really felt a lot of progress in some things. And I also, I made some discoveries. I kind of played around a little bit today in a very controlled manner, but I think I made some discoveries that are really going to be great building blocks for what I'm currently working on. But I was taking things slow, focusing rep quality, just having a good time. And, it really turned out to be a good workout. It was a good skill day. Here, I think, this is still a sped up clip. I'll slow the clips down in a minute, but, this is where skill training is starting. This is where the warm-up is ending. And here I'm just focusing on properly engaging my shoulder when I do any kind of one-arm pulling. If you'll notice on every single one of these movements, my scapula retracts and pulls down to start the movement before I ever think about bending my elbow. And this is something I've really been training probably for at least a couple weeks, maybe 3 weeks or more now, and has really helped me. I have a lot less shoulder pain, and I feel a lot better with my one-arm training. And I've recently also started training archer pull-ups, and the technique that you see me using here directly applies to archer pull-ups. So there's a lot of carryover into other calisthenics skills. Speaking of archer pull-ups, I believe that's what I'm going to do here. And let's see, there's that exact same technique. starting the movement by engaging the shoulder, and then once I have the scapula as far down as it'll go, then I can start bending the elbow. And something else I just wanted to say is, and I've been kind of mentioning it a lot here lately, really the only way to get something, really only way to unlock a new calisthenics skill is to do the calisthenics skill. And that may sound a little odd at first. You might be like, I can't do muscle ups. How am I going to train, or how am I going to do muscle ups to unlock a muscle up? And the way you do that is you pick an easier progression of a muscle up, or in this case, like an archer pull up. The only way to unlock the skill is to do the skill. You'll hear people say, you need to be able to do 15 pull-ups, you need to be able to do like 20 dips and all this stuff to do your first muscle up. That is completely false. Those are good strength prerequisites, to be able to do, but they are absolutely not requirements. You need good general pulling strength, you need good general pushing strength, but what's really going to help you to unlock the muscle up is to do the muscle up, whether that is some sort of negative, which is my personal favorite. I hear some people say that, band assisted muscle ups help them, but I've never had any luck with those. I always feel like the bands kind of, look at my planche attempt, look at that, straight arms, making huge progress on the planche. But anyways, like I was saying, I don't think that the band-assisted muscle-ups have ever really worked for me. I think that the band kind of changes the way that your momentum travels when you do a muscle-up. But to each their own. If you're struggling to get a muscle-up, try band assistance. But my personal recommendation is to do some sort of negative. Here's some more progress. Look at that. That is vertical grip, which is something I've always struggled with for human flag. And I'm kind of starting to get a little more comfortable, where I can extend more and hang on longer, even on my weak side here. Something I did different today that I feel like really helped myself was, instead of trying to reach up and grab so high on this bar here, I tried to grab down lower. And from a physics perspective, it makes a lot of sense, because it's going to require a lot less work from my body to kick myself up to the top of that flag position to do a negative, if I don't have to go up so high. But anyways, here it's a 45-degree grip variation. And I know I'm always saying, do 2 attempts and then call it quits for the day. But I had an idea pop in my head here, and I had to do 3 attempts on the human flag. So this next set here, this next clip, you'll see I come back with a vengeance, and I think it was a great discovery. I'm definitely going to start training human flags this way. And I'm taking it super slow. I'm focusing on rep quality. Look at that, just gently pushing off, gently putting all the weight on. And look at my form. It's a lot better. I went into the movement very slow, and that really allowed me to make sure that my shoulders were engaged properly. It gave a second for my muscles to properly engage. And it really allowed me to, to focus on the technique. And, as I keep saying that, that's super important. I mean, look at the difference in those clips. I feel like I have so much more control there. I felt very strong, very confident in myself when I was doing that. So that's definitely how I'm going to start, training human flags there. Pushing as hard as I can with the bottom arm, pulling as hard as I can with the top, and that slow transition from the weight on my feet to being in the flag position, really helped. I think this is slow muscle up. Didn't do quite so good on this today, at least on the full body weight attempt, or At least that's how I felt. I'll make an excuse and say it was that band in my face, but I felt like I done a lot better with what I suggested there towards the start of the video, or I guess I should say the start of the skill practice, and that's to use assistance to make whatever you're trying to learn easier. Because the only way I'm ever going to get a slow muscle up is to train a slow muscle up. So here I am, I'm using band assistance to make a slow muscle up, not a regular muscle up, but a slow muscle up on the rings. I'm using band assistance to make that a lot easier. And that really just gives me an opportunity, to focus on the technique, focus on what feels right and what does not feel right. And, just train the movement. Really focusing that transition, making sure everything feels good. And, this is definitely the building block, probably for a lot of people, but definitely for myself right now. That's definitely the building block I need to, to progress. Quite a bit of force coming off of that band there as I let it go. That's why you got to be careful to not get hit in the face by those, if you choose to use assistance bands. Here is some front lever training. I kind of went into that half lay position, but then I had to quickly bridge into an advanced tuck before trying the band assisted full front lever, which I feel like I've done pretty well on today. This is my second time trying it, with the band like this, and I think this is the building block for front lever. So I'm really showing my body, what a full front lever feels like, and then I'm able to do a more advanced progression for more time under tension. And, like going along with what I was saying about, if you want to be able to do something, you have to do it. Just do it with an easier twist. Going along with that, the key detail there is you're getting time under tension. And that's the thing. Like, that's what's making you stronger, is that you are allowing the muscles to resist, the skill. They're resisting the tension as they would if you didn't have the assistance. And over time, your body will adapt, because our bodies are adaptation machines. But over time, your body adapts and it gets stronger. It gets used to what the skill should feel like. And it adapts and you get stronger. And, over time, you'll use less and less assistance. You'll be able to hold it for longer and longer. And then eventually, you can do it without the assistance. Here is mostly just freestanding handstand. These were handstand push-up attempts, but at the end of the day, what they turned into were freestanding holds. I almost lost these when I first kicked up, and I had to chase them down, but I was able to catch them and even do a bit of a negative handstand push-up on each of them. A little bit of positive there too, and I ended up losing it on top. That's probably something I need to put some more time into, but I didn't want to, to overwork myself today, so we'll save that for push day. Something I did get into today was a bit of freestyle training. I haven't done this. This is called a Korean transition. I haven't tried that since before knee surgery. So it was nice to be able to do that today. Here's something else I haven't done since before knee surgery. This is a bar hop over with a back spin. And I was super careful with this today. Super careful to not put a lot of the weight on behind my knees. Most of the weight there with that back spin was on my hands. Because it can actually put quite a bit of pressure on your knees if you try to swing around the bar with just the weight on your legs. Puts a lot of pressure on your ACLs. And I understand not everybody knows what that is, and just trust me when I say that you don't want to tear that. That was what my first knee surgery was related to. Here I'm trying something new. I've never done this before. I'm trying to spin around the bar so fast and with so much momentum that I can come up on the other side of the bar. It's something I saw, some of the more advanced athletes trying. And I felt pretty safe here. I could feel some progression in just a few attempts.
You're getting there.
But that's something I'll have to, work on in the future, because I definitely wasn't getting it today on my first time ever trying it. But it definitely seemed like a fun skill to try and learn, and I definitely seemed like it would be something cool to be able to do. But that was the end of my freestyle training, which followed the skill training. Here I'm just stretching out. Got the neighbors in the background there. Everybody's out having a good day, and that's what's important in life is, like I was saying earlier on, is to have a good time, be happy with yourself, enjoy life, laugh a little bit, have a good time. Don't always be such a try-hard, so to say. It's good to try hard at things that you're passionate about, but don't be so upset, don't be so tore up if you don't manage to accomplish your goals. Just take life one day at a time, and have fun while you're going. But that's that's about the end of the training video for today. Hopefully this has been helpful. If you have any questions or comments, leave those below, and I'll try to help you the best I can. Doing a little bit of flex in there. Like I said, feeling good about myself. But thank you guys for watching, and have a nice day. Take care. Bye-bye.